Good afternoon, Laker Nation. Tell me you don't feel it already. That low hum under the floorboards when a franchise stops tinkering and starts building. When every cut to the rim has the sound of intent and every defensive stand looks like five minds telling the same truth. I've been in this room long enough to know the difference between a splashy headline and a structural fix. And what I'm seeing is a front office and a coaching staff aligning the geometry of our team with the reality of the Western Conference. The kind of grown-up move that turns long rebounds from a panic into a runway and makes the weak side corner a threat again instead of a hiding place. Hold that thought, because I'm going to walk you through the why and the how, from cap logic to coverage rules, from the timing of our angle screens to the psychology of fourth quarters in May, and I promise I won't waste your time. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what changed, why it matters on a Tuesday in January and in Game 5 in Denver, and what I'll be tracking over the next 10 games to separate noise from signal. Start with honesty. Last spring, our issues weren't about star power or IQ, they were about mass and timing. We could play fast, we could play clever, but when the floor shrank and tags came early, we didn't have a vertical answer that forced the low man to choose between surrendering a lob and conceding a corner three. That's where playoff basketball lives. Forced choices, not perfect plays, and that's exactly where we were light. Mix in the West's arms race. Oklahoma City throws waves of length. Denver plays chess at the elbows. Minnesota turns every drive into a negotiation. And the conclusion was obvious even if it wasn't glamorous. We needed size with purpose. Someone who makes contact real, turns pocket passes into dunks, and ends possessions with a chest-first rebound instead of a tip and a prayer. We needed a five who changes the math without requiring a speech. Scheme first, names later. J.J. Redick's menu isn't complicated. By design. We want our five sprinting into angle screens so the ball handler is downhill before help can set. We want early seals that punish switches. We want flip screens when defenders cheat top foot. And we want defensive rules that travel. Drop versus non-shooters to protect the rim and own the glass. Show and recover against pop threats. Switch late-in clock to deaden guard-guard actions. And communicate through Spain so the back screen doesn't puncture our spine. None of that reads like a highlight reel. All of it reads like May basketball. And the reason I'm laying this out before I say the thing you're here to hear is simple. The move matters because the structure needed it, not because the timeline begged for a headline. Now let's talk rotation shape, because that's where you'll feel the difference in real time. We open halves imposing size, not reacting to it. Two true spacers deep in the corners. LeBron working as an opportunistic point forward who can lift or duck in depending on the tag. Luka commanding the angle pick and roll with every counter available. And the five sprinting into contact like it owes him money. If the defense top locks the slot, we ghost and dive. If it peel switches late, we bury the mismatch with an early seal that calls for a high-low or a quick entry and a layup. If it commits a third defender from the strong side wing, we trigger the hammer action and skip to the far corner with time for rhythm. That's not a trick play. That's a sequence that forces the low man to sprint and the weak side defender to guess, and defenses hate guessing 3 times in 7 seconds. The bench stints adjust off that base. We use Jackson Hayes as the energy counterpunch when pace spikes or foul trouble hits. We sprinkle small ball with LeBron at the 5 as a curveball instead of a lifeline. And we keep the closing 5 honest. Whoever defends, screens, and rebounds wins the minutes. Now bring me your skeptic energy. Okay, but does it hold against the heavyweights? Because that's where this story gets adult. Against Denver, the 5 has to survive Jokic's math problem without nuking our foul budget. Against OKC, he must hit the ground sprinting, forcing Chet to choose between protecting the rim and protecting threes. Against Minnesota, he needs early body position, not late reach, to keep Gobert off the glass. And across all of them, the effort standard has to be boringly high. Sprint into contact, flip when chased high, seal before the pass arrives, and box out before the shot leaves the hand. I don't need a 20-point post hub. I need a big who turns correct decisions into easy points and tough rebounds into runouts. That's the blueprint. And if the 5 delivers that, our stars can be cruel in quick bursts instead of heroic all night. Which brings me to what you've been waiting for. And I'm saying it with the weight it deserves now that the context is clear. The Los Angeles Lakers signed Deandre Ayton on a short-term deal with a player option. And the job description is as clean as it gets. Be the engine of the paint, so LeBron and Luka can choose the terms of every possession. Take a breath and let that settle, because I don't want this to read as an off-season splash. I want it to read as a solution. Ayton arrives with playoff mileage, soft hands, and a frame that creates advantages without needing touches scripted for ego. He's at his best as a blunt instrument of efficiency, heavy screens that thump, vertical rolls that threaten the back line, short roll touch that punishes deep drops, putbacks that turn misses into points and whistles. I've watched enough tape already to see the shape. When his energy bar is full, our offense gets simple, and simple is undefeated in the postseason. I'm not sugarcoating the early sample. There were possessions where a blindside dig knocked the ball loose, a couple of late contests that should have been early verticals, and a few pocket catches where he could have taken space with the chest instead of avoiding contact. But there were also the reps that change how defenses prepare. The angle screen that flattened an on-ball defender and forced the low man to freeze, the flip screen that punished a switch and created a deep, easy seal, the offensive rebound that turned a broken play into 2 points and a side-eye from the opposing bench. Here's why that matters. When the 5 collapses help by existing with urgency, our shooters stop living on contest heavy and hope, Luka's pocket passes turn into layups instead of crowded floaters, and LeBron's post work can be a choice, not a bailout. And because our half-court spacing is honest, even Ayton's misses teach the opponent. You can't play small against this for 12 minutes and expect to survive. Let me stage 2 late clock trips the way you'll feel them from your couch. First, Luka brings it left to right. Ayton sprints into an angle pick from the slot. LeBron lifts from the corner to pull the low man 1 step higher. The on-ball gets clipped. The low man hesitates between lob and spray. Luka threads the pocket. Ayton takes 1 long stride and finishes through a chest. No drama, just 2. Next trip, the defense tries to switch it early. Ayton flips the screen. Luka snakes middle, and as the smaller defender tries to front, Ayton sits him on his hip, asks for the high-low, easy entry, soft hook, another 2. You can run those into April because they're built on principles, not a matchup mirage. The defensive piece is the part that will determine how quickly the outside noise dies. The rules are clear, and they suit him. Default drop versus lineups with shaky shooting so he can protect the rim and inhale the glass. Show higher against pop threats to buy time for backline rotations. And switch late when the clock forces isolation so guards aren't dying chasing. If Ayton's early with chest to space and on time to go vertical, the backline looks connected instead of reactive. And the difference between connected and reactive is the difference between playing from ahead and playing from behind. That's not semantics, that's tempo. Now cap sanity because we're adults here. This is a short commitment with a player option, which is exactly the kind of contract that buys you flexibility. It solves a real need right now and preserves optionality if February presents a stretch 5 at a sane price. And if the market doesn't blink, you still have a workable number tied to a starting caliber center whose value goes up in a system that feeds him on time. Add in Jackson Hayes back on a 1 year to keep the center minutes honest and energetic, and suddenly you're not walking a tightrope with your big rotation, you're choosing tools. I hear the temptation, by the way. What about a 7-footer who shoots 40% and pops out of actions like a wing? Of course, that's interesting. Give Luka a popper and you'll melt some coverages. But here's the truth. Fans hate and coaches love. The pop game is dessert, not dinner. Dinner is rim pressure, screening violence, and defensive rebounding. Get that right, and you can mix in the pop as a change-up, not a lifeline. And if the right stretch 7 shakes free without burning tomorrow, you listen. Until then, this is a real plan you can win with. Let me anchor it with numbers without turning this into a spreadsheet. Ayton's career production lives in that 16 and 10 band with efficient finishing, and he's played deep-run playoff minutes. Early in this season, the double-double pace is there, the contested rebound share is trending up, and the screen assist metrics, the hidden currency of rim pressure, are ticking. Those are effort stats married to context, which is exactly where we wanted the center value to live. And because our creators bend coverage with their eyes, the 5 is cashing out touches that are built into the fabric of our offense, not stapled on top of it. That's sustainable. The upcoming tests will be honest. Minnesota will try to turn the paint into a crowded airport and dare us to win with patience. Denver will bait us with false help and ask our 5 to guard Jokic's feet and brain without fouling. OKC will fly around like a kitchen of sous chefs and force our 5 to make catch-to-decision plays in traffic. This is where conditioning, film, and pride separate a nice regular season story from a playoff identity. But for once, we're not asking a center to be something he's not. We're asking him to be himself at full throttle every night. Screens with purpose, sprints that bend shells, seals that are early, rebounds with 2 elbows as barricades. That's not a fantasy. That's a checklist. I'm going to be direct with you because this channel respects grown-up hoops talk. This move turns us from, we need to play great to win, into we need to play correct to win, and that's where mature contenders live. LeBron doesn't have to be heroic in December to give himself to May. Luka doesn't have to thread needles all night when a clean pocket pass becomes 2 points. And role players stop guessing on spacing because the paint has gravity again. That's how you survive the schedule and arrive in the bracket with legs. Before I land this, I want your basketball brain in the mix, because the smartest part of this community is how specific you get. Do you believe Ayton, in this defined role, is the 5 who closes a road game 5, or is he the 5 who starts the war so a different finishing group can end it? If your answer is it depends, tell me on what? Matchups, whistle, pace, shooting variance, and give me the lineup you trust most at +2 with 3:40 left. I'll pull the sharpest takes into the next breakdown because this channel is built on informed fans, not hot air. And here's the concise bottom line you can clip and send to your group chat. The Lakers diagnosed a structural flaw and addressed it with a short, smart signing that fits our scheme on both ends. Deandre Ayton gives us honest rim pressure, real screening, and defensive size without wrecking flexibility. If the effort standard stays high and the coverage rules stay tight, this isn't a patch job. It's a foundation for the way we want to play now and in May. I'm optimistic because the film is already showing the right kind of boring, the kind that repeats, travels, and wins. Drop your take below, smash that like if this breakdown helped you see the floor differently. And subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report with notifications on so you don't miss the instant reactions when this thing spikes or the deep dives when we need to adjust. Share this with that friend who still thinks rim pressure is optional, and meet me in the comments with matchups, rotations, and your top 3 coverage tweaks for the next 2-week sample. We're building this together, one correct possession at a time.